You want to listen to a podcast?
By who?
Georgia GOP Congressman Doug Collins.
How is it?
The greatest thing I have ever heard in my whole life.
I could not believe my ears.
In this house, wherever the rules are disregarded, chaos and mob rule. It has been said today, where is bravery? I'll tell you where bravery is found and courage is found. It's found in this minority who has lived through the last year of nothing but rules being broken, people being put down, questions not being answered. And this majority say, be damned with anything else. We're going to impeach and do whatever we want to do. Why? Because we won an election. I guarantee you, one day you'll be back in the minority and it ain't gonna be that fun.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the podcast. Glad to have you here on the Doug Collins podcast for a Wednesday. A lot going on. We've had a lot of episodes recently. I've been traveling a little bit. We're going to catch up today from what's been going on, but also put it in perspective of how this campaign for president especially is weighing out. We're going to have to get to also how these will shape up in the down ticket races, the House and Senate races as we go forward. We'll be looking at that in the coming weeks ahead. Hope you've enjoyed some of the time we've had. Thanks for Chip and James, of course, handling Friday's Finest. And also it's been great to hear from Michael Waddell and some of our friends just as we get prepared for other things going on in the world. But right now it's politics. Right now it's presidential politics. Right now the media has successfully last Sunday completed their coup in cahoots with the Democratic elites, starting with former President Obama and others, and have now reset this race with Vice President Harris. And as I said all along, that was the only person that it could have been was Vice President Harris. They have too much division within their ranks to be anybody else. So let's just, we're going to dive into it after the break, but we got a lot to discuss and we'll see where it goes. So right after the break, we'll be back right here on the Doug Collins Podcast. You might have heard Mike Lindell and MyPillow no longer have the support of the box stores or the shopping channels as a way they used to. They've been part of the cancel culture. So they want to pass the savings directly on to you by having a $25 extravaganza. When Mike started MyPillow, it was just one product company. With the help of his dedicated employees, they now have hundreds of products. Some of you may not even know about that. So to get the word out, I want to invite my listeners to check out the $25 extravaganza. 2-pack multi-pillow use My Pillows are just $25. My Pillow sandals, $25. There's 6-pack of towel sets, $25. Brand new 4-pack dish towels. You guessed it, just $25. And for the first time ever, the My Pillows with all new Giza fabric, just $25. All orders over $75 will see free shipping too. This amazing offer won't last long, so go to mypillow.com and use the promo code Collins, that's COLLINS, or call 800-986-3994 today. That's promo code Collins. Hey, inflation's at a 40-year high. The stock market looks more uncertain than ever. The new central bank digital currency is on its way and could be the government's ultimate surveillance tool against Americans. It looks like the government is playing games with your savings and retirement. So what are you going to do to help protect yourself? Did you know that you can have physical gold and silver into your IRA or 401k with zero tax or penalties? Millions of Americans are doing this right now for protection, and you should think about it too. A company I trust and recommend is Preserve Gold. They will go all over your options and make sure the process of acquiring precious metals is simple and easy. So if you're looking to help protect your retirement with a trustworthy company, request your free investment guide from the experts at Preserve Gold. Preserve Gold is accredited by the Better Business Bureau, and they have hundreds of 5-star reviews, so you know that you're in good hands. Just text Collins, COLLINS, to 50505. At an exclusive offer for my listeners, they'll get up to $15,000 in free gold and silver with a qualifying purchase on a retirement account rollover. So don't wait. Text Collins to 50505 today and get your free gold and silver investment guide and take the first step. Again, text Collins to 50505 to get your free guide from the good people at Preserve Gold. All right, before we jump in, though, I did want to mention thanks for all the notes we've been getting. I'm trying to get back with you as best I can on going to the DougCollinsPodcast.com, hitting the email button and getting those email requests to me. If you have speaking engagements, if you have just questions about the podcast, maybe others that you want to see on the podcast, things that are going on, please let me know about that, and we can see about scheduling those events where I'm at and where I'm available. But also it's a good way to keep in touch. And thanks for the words of encouragement. We appreciate it. And even for those of you not so encouraging, we appreciate you as well for listening on the podcast. Let's dive in. Again, not going to rehash too much of the fact, though, that the Democrats have put themselves in a position now to where I will call the race somewhere back to where we were before the debacle in Atlanta on the debate. The Democrats are delusional in the sense of what they believe Americans are wanting to hear. They're still pushing a radical left-wing agenda, and with Vice President Harris on the top of the now ticket, that's not going to change. Except, they're trying now to look at a vice presidential candidate that makes her more moderate, if you would. And I think that's going to be a hard thing to do. Shapiro in Pennsylvania, Kelly out of Arizona, Cooper out of North Carolina, as of just before the taping, has taken his name out of the running. Brashear out of Kentucky is someone is also in play, but the North Carolina Governor Roy Cooper is decided not to even put in this. Got Tim Walz out of Minnesota. I served with Tim. You're getting the same as Kamala Harris on Tim Walz. So I'm not sure you're actually going to go there. If they think Minnesota for some reason is in more play than they typically do, then I think you could see that. But I think it's going to come down for Harris having to pick someone that actually builds her up. This is the one pick. Vice presidential candidates are helpful. They can be hurtful. But at the end of the day, it's the top of the ticket that's voted on. It's the top of the ticket. And in our case, for president, it's Donald Trump. It'll be Kamala Harris for the Democrats. And then the vice presidential candidates will sort of play a role in specific states, specific areas, but not as much of a role as, again, a lot of times is associated with them. However, in this case, I think you may see a little bit of a difference here. And that is because Harris has no executive experience. She has senatorial experience. She has, attorney general experience from California, which is really, if you just go back and take a look at Tulsi Gabbard's demolition of Harris in the 2020 campaign for president, you will see the blueprint to go after Vice President Harris on issues ranging from crime and everything else, because she just is hypocritical even to her own base. And I think that's pretty hard to do sometimes when you're hypocritical to everybody, including your own base. Those are the kind of things that have not been vetted. Now, she's did not even make it to Iowa in the presidential primary of 2020, and yet now has been anointed as the head of the Democratic Party going into the election here in, the November election with Donald Trump. And I think the vetting light is getting ready to be shined much brighter. Now, the Democrats do have an advantage in the sense that by pushing Joe Biden out, completing the coup along with the media and the Hollywood elites and the Democratic Party elites, doing that to Joe Biden after his terrible debate performance, after they've been covering for him forever, and we're going to discuss that again more here in a little bit. They now have sort of a free reign through the Olympics and then into their convention. In some ways, they're getting an elongated convention because now Vice President Harris is looking for a vice presidential candidate to be alongside her on the ticket for president. So you're getting constant media attention, constant media storm, constant media who were so happy that they got rid of Joe Biden, and now they can focus on trying to prop up the Harris campaign, who has received 0 votes from any voter in the United States for president up until this point. The first votes ever cast in this cycle, and frankly, almost in other cycles, it didn't matter in 2020 because she dropped out, is going to be the first time people have ever voted for her for president of the United States. Now, again, the Democratic Party is coming around her. The Democratic Party elites have been funding it. They've been pushing the money in. The same monies that were being withheld from Joe Biden are now being funneled into the Harris campaign. And when the vice presidential pick is made, you'll see another boost in that. And they're sort of milking this whole process a little bit to get the maximum coverage. Now, look, from a political perspective, that's exactly what you would expect them to do. It is frustrating, however, to realize, as we always have here on the conservative side, that Donald Trump has to fight not only the party in the White House, but has to also turn out to fight the media and others as well in trying to make sure that our message is getting out. Democrats have done a large job on trying to paint J.D. Vance, the vice presidential pick for Donald Trump, into a corner with older statements, past statements, things that he has made. Again, in a honest look at this is what happens when you have a person who's never been vetted on a full national stage and lighting that is so intense that most would not understand, would undergo the scrutiny of this. So I think this is, the things that we have to look at going forward here. Vance has got to get his sea legs, his campaigning sea legs across the country. I think he's going to do that. But yet he's not had, there's been no honeymoon for that. The media has been brutal in that regard. We have allowed fake stories about everything. And, after being called fake, they still hang on. This is what happens in presidential campaigns and other campaigns, is that once a narrative set, your idea is to, from the Democrats' perspective, was to paint the look as Vance into a certain way. They painted that picture of Vance at this point, and that's what people are trying to get set in. This is where the Trump campaign is starting to hit back. You're starting to see full-blown ads now with the Olympic coverage, both with Donald Trump attacking Harris and Harris attacking Donald Trump. This will be the staple for the next 98 days as we look at the conventions, coming out of the conventions, coming into the fall, into November for this election. So, folks, I'm just going to tell you right now, this is a big deal when we look at the election cycle. I have said from day one that I believe this was going to be the pivotal event in this cycle will be in October. And in October, you're going to see the country being completely focused, the independents, the maybe hanger-oners, the other. September and October is the time when you start bringing people in who may or may not be voting. They'll already be voting in many states who have mail-in voting, who have early voting. That last more than 4 to 5 weeks. You'll start seeing absentee ballots being cast. So this is where people really begin to focus. And I think this is the thing that I want to say to Republican voters and to others as they look at this race, is now is the time to remember. We always knew this was going to be a fight to the finish. We assumed early on it was going to be Joe Biden. Then as it became more and more clear that Joe Biden's own deteriorating condition was not going to allow that, and the Democrat power elites in Hollywood and the media were not going to allow that to happen, and the fundraisers were not going to allow that to happen, then it was going to switch over to Vice President Harris. It's done that. This should not be all of that, I guess confusing, if you would. It should not be all that surprising to us, but we've got to now get back to basically the message that have put us where we are now. And let's just talk about that for a second. What are the messages that were resonating with the American public? The first one is easy. It's the economy. It's always been this, since James Carville's famous quote in 1992 in the Clinton campaign, is the economy stupid. This always is what it's been. Donald Trump has been able to paint the Biden-Harris administration was Biden, and now we just have to call it what it is. It's the Harris administration, Biden administration. She cannot run from the record of this last 3.5 years. We cannot let her run off and try to hide from it or change history. And we can't allow the media narrative to do so too, because since then they came in, the first thing they did was pass a massive stimulus bill, which they were told by their own liberal economists was going to cause inflation. Guess what? It went from 1% up to, as high as 9%. And now it's coming back down to 3.5% or a little over 3%. And they're calling that a victory. I'm sorry. You can't call it a victory if you caused it. Now you can say, well, I caused something and got it better. Okay, yeah, what you broke, you then tried to fix, but it's still not fixed back to where it should have been. We're not at the place where we were 3 years ago, where inflation, where it was basically 1% or nil. It was not affecting the economy. Interest rates were lower, and now you've had a time in which you have caused gas prices, home prices, food prices, rent prices, everything you can think of. Fast food is taking a beating right now because these prices are so high. People can't buy it. Fast food has no longer become the affordable alternative for families who want to take a night out. They can't just go for $10 to $12 and feed a family of 3 or 4. It's just not going to happen. $25 you could have fed your family. You can't do that anymore. And they cannot run from this economy that they put us in. So number one, keep talking about the economy. Number one, two, keep talking about how the economy affects everyday people's wallets. Number three, keep talking about how it has affected businesses with regulation, with interest prices, and with those things that cause capital to be harder to get for companies who are trying to expand or to grow their businesses. These are the things that we need to focus on. Focus on the fact that the jobs that have been created in this market were simply rebound jobs, many of them from the pandemic era, and that jobs are not being created in the way that we have seen in the past. Although the Biden administration will try to feed you alive 16 million jobs or more, most of those are rebound jobs that were coming back as the economy began to fix after the COVID incidents. So again, what are we deviating here from? You just have a new face at the top of the ticket, but she's the same face of the administration. The same administration that gave you this bad economy is the same administration she needs to have to defend. And we've got to make sure that we push that agenda. Number two, immigration. Immigration. The borders you can scrub it from Google, you can scrub it from Meta, you can scrub it from Facebook, all of these places, but it's still true. She was appointed over the border as a border czar to find out the root causes, whatever that may mean, but also find out how to keep people from coming over the border. She's failed miserably. The Biden administration failed miserably. It's time to hold her accountable for the atrocities at our southern border. And that means, yes, we need to name the names of Laken Riley and others who have been murdered by illegal aliens who should not have been in this country at all. And not just the famous ones, not just the ones who made the news, but the ones who are being killed every day in drunk driving accidents or having other issues that should have never happened. I don't care what the left tries to say, a percentage or a small percentage or others of how many are these actually happening to. One is too many when you're not here legally. Again, the crime is a part of life. We've seen it forever. You cannot completely eradicate crime. But I tell you what you can eradicate. If the person wasn't here in the country to start with, you're not going to see the crime committed, and Laken Riley would be alive today. So why are we sort of pandering around that outfit? We've got to get back to remember, it's the Harris economy. It's the Harris border crisis. Yes, she's the vice president, Joe Biden. Call it the Biden-Harris, however you want to call it. But remind people that the immigrants that they're seeing, remind these big cities, New York, Philadelphia, Chicago, other places, that the reason they're seeing all these immigrants, illegal immigrants in their cities, is because of the Biden policy. The Biden-Harris policy is something Vice President Harris cannot run from. And if she tries to run from it, we need to place it right back in the responsibility factor of her to make her answer to it. Number three, as you look at this, one of the big things I think will come up is that, frankly, the vice president, along with many in the cabinet, are not truthful. In fact, they lied to us about Joe Biden's condition. If Vice President Harris was willing to lie to the American people about the condition of Joe Biden, who she saw every week or multiple times a week and spoke to him, if she is willing to hide that from the American people, knowing that compromised our commander-in-chief, what else is she hiding? What else is she willing not to tell you? What else is she willing to put on the back burner for her own political success? We've seen her ambition from California, from the district attorney's office to the attorney general's office to the vice president's, to the Senate seat, to the vice presidency. We've seen her ambition. Is she willing to keep such a thing as a president of the United States condition a secret for her own political ambitions? Is a problem that she's going to have to answer for. And everybody in that administration right now who hid, and everybody in the media who made excuses, who made lies, who allowed the media offices under Karine Jean-Pierre or Jen Psaki to actually just take the questions and ask and give the questions early and know who was going to ask so he wouldn't look as bad as he really was. You're all complicit in this. But it's Vice President Harris who's going to be on the top of the Democratic ticket. Why are we leaving that alone? We can't do it. And then you got the simple fact of our world standing, the pull out of Afghanistan. If Vice President Harris claimed, as she is all along, that I'm a full partner in this administration, that she's a full partner in the disasters as well, and Afghanistan 13 are a part of that. The fact that the Ukraine situation is still going on and we're just pumping money after money over there with no real accountability or checks. We see that Vice President Harris chose, and here's another issue, she chose not to attend the joint session of Congress with Bibi Netanyahu about Israel and the issue in Gaza. She chose not to. Hezbollah right now is ramping up attacks. They see that if America is paralyzed in this fight, that they see an opening to attack our strongest ally in the region and in the world. And they're seeing it because of our weakness of the Biden-Harris administration. So, folks, let me just be honest with you. If you're thinking that this election was going to be easy, you're in the wrong business. You know, the only easy day was yesterday. Okay, we've got to get out. We've got to register voters. We've got to get out and share a message. We've got to get out. However you can do that. It may be talking to your neighbor, talking to the folks at church, talking to folks at the synagogue, talking to folks at the mosque, talking to folks at the football games, which are getting ready to kick off here in the South, all over the place. We're getting ready for high school football, college football. We need hunters, our gun owners. This is one of the things we talked about on the show. You got to get out and vote. If you don't vote at all, then you know my position on that. If you're listening to this podcast and you don't vote, then shut up. I don't want to hear your political commentary. I don't want to hear your political debate. I don't want to hear your opinion on anything involving government. I just don't. You're useless to me when you come up with this issue. I won't want to vote. And press, we know you vote, whether you sometimes you say you don't or not. It doesn't affect. I'm going to just say this. If you are a true journalist, how you vote shouldn't affect how you write. If you're a true journalist. If you're an opinion writer, whole different issue. But see, that's the problem we've got. Most of our journalists have become opinion writers, even when they try to, quote, write journalistic pieces. We're still seeing the fallout from this all over. So as you look at this, the race is going to be tight. It's time for those of us to rally the conservative message, which we've talked about over and over and over on this call, these podcasts and calls and everything that I've been doing, is just focus on the economy, focus on immigration, focus on the fact that Vice President Harris is a liar about Joe Biden's issues. She is a liar about knowing his incapacitation that he was showing, and said nothing to anybody. These are the problems that we have to deal with. These are the issues that we've got to confront the Democratic Party with, and don't let them get off without answering it. We'll get into other things before. We've talked about abortion. We've talked about social issues. We've talked about others. We can talk about how to answer those at another time. But right now, I just encourage you, everybody listening to this podcast today, get out there. If you're a Republican, you want to see a conservative change. You don't want to see 4 more, possibly 8 or plus years of Vice President Harris in the White House leading this country, then you need to get out this fall and do something about it. That's why November is so important. So good to be back with you. Glad we got lots of good shows coming up. We got Friday's Finest. We'll all be back in the house on Friday. Everybody's vacationing or back in, so we'll be able to get that together. Chip is back as he was last week. I am here, and James as well. Be all ready to see you on Friday. Lots of other good episodes coming up. We'll see you soon again on the Doug Collins Podcast.